Well, good morning, everybody. John, Raj, Jim, how y'all doing this morning? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm still trying to wake up as well. Whew. Me too, brother. That time change is rough. I don't know who thought it would be a good idea to have a time change the morning of or morning after a birthday party, but it's not a good idea. Hope everybody's doing well and had a good day yesterday. Miss Rhonda, good morning. Miss Rhonda was here yesterday. Her and her other half, I won't say better half, Rhonda. Raj, how's everything going? How's the family? How's your better half? Well, I am not up bright eyes, I can tell you that. I'm struggling this morning. Yeah, that sign right up there, thanks to Rhonda and Mike. They gave that to me yesterday for my birthday. I thought that was appropriate to put in the Jus Piddlin BBQ World Headquarters. They're still asleep and you had an extra one. Thank you, John. Appreciate that, John. You at work? Max says her better half is here at Huddle House. Good grief. Mark, good morning. Brother, looks are not deceiving this morning. Well, John, I'm sure that Miss Kelly would appreciate it if you called her and woke her up and told her that the man stream was on. I'm sure she would appreciate that. I want some hash browns right now. Hash browns would be amazing right now. Scattered, smothered, covered, chunked, topped, diced. That would be amazing. Whew. Mac, that ain't right. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do it to you. You're probably right, John. Yeah, there's going to be some, after the live stream this morning, there's going to be some eggs and bacon cooked this morning. And then probably a lot of laying around today. Not going to be a whole lot getting accomplished at the Smith house today. I do have to edit that brisket video. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Talk about that cook, how it turned out and all that. Give folks another minute. Shrimp and grits, that sounds good. That sounds really good. ED Cop 66. Morning, welcome to daylight savings time. Well, good morning to you too. I wish they would just leave the time alone. I just wish they would leave it alone. It's not like people don't know how to drive in the dark. On that goat stove. Yes. Give us a tour of the, well, that would be such a lengthy video, Raj, because we'd have to start at the bottom floor and just keep taking the elevator up and up and up. And there's not really good service in the elevator. It would take a while. I could move you around. I'll just kind of go through the tour here, right here. Right. Well, you can see a little part of it right there. This is actually one of our guest bedrooms. Used to be Rhonda and Mac's best guest bedroom on the New Year's Jus Piddlin extravaganza. But this is actually a bed, but I cut some pieces of 3/4 inch plywood last weekend and covered it. And so now it's just a really big, nice workspace. So I've got my Silhouette Cameo 3 sitting right here that I got last week and made this sticker and some more stickers on. I may play with that some today and come up with some new design stickers today. But I got some vinyl and stuff over here. I need to order some more vinyl. A little t-shirt station over there I got going on. Organized by size and all that stuff. And over there is my shelf with Snoop's. Old Snoop's up there. And my box right there from Gavin from the Land Down Under. And all my packaging supplies are over there, and my printer and all that. And that pretty much takes care of the old Jus Piddlin headquarters. We haven't expanded yet. Take the stairs. So that's that sums up the Jus Piddlin headquarters. Not a whole lot going on, but it is a little more organized now that we got that big counter set up and all that stuff. So that helps out a lot. All right, so let's get started. We'll do some talking about yesterday and what we did yesterday and what we cooked and all that stuff. Cheers with some Iron Bean coffee. By the way, shout out to Fred and Chanel. They did a Facebook Live last night. And I think today, I haven't even looked. Let me look while we're just kind of sitting here piddling just to see. But I think last night their daughter had contacted them and she was actually going into labor with their grandchild. So if you were wanting some coffee from Iron Bean Coffee Company, it may be a couple of weeks because I think they're going to wherever their daughter lives to stay for a while and help them with the new arrival. Let's just type it in. There it is. To see if they announced, but I think that they might have been on their way last night. So that's their live. I don't see any announcements or anything, but I'm sure they'll let us know sometime today. But anyway, shout out to them and prayers to their daughter, and looking forward to seeing that beautiful baby. So shout out to them, Iron Bean Coffee Company, Fred and Chanel. So Cheers, because you're helping me wake up this morning. Oh, man. All right. Yesterday, had Chad Smiley Roberts over at the house. We've coached together for years, and he's become a really good friend. And so Chad came over. Rhonda and Matt came over. My daughter Sarah Brooke came over for a while, and sister-in-law and mother-in-law came over, and niece came over for a little while. Anyway, we just hung out in the backyard, and we did the live stream yesterday talking about the brisket and everything, and that live stream went really well. I mean, that was fun doing a live stream while I was cooking something, and got to show that on camera a little bit. I wish the cord on my camera, my live stream camera, was a little longer, but we made do with what we had, and that turned out really good. A lot of folks showed up, and we had a fun time. It was good. So we did the live stream, and let's talk about that brisket a minute. Again, I want to thank Stephen for sending me that brisket, because it was amazing, and probably the best quality piece of meat that I've had on any of my grills, really. The marbling in that thing was beautiful. And Rhonda and Mac, they had some of that brisket. It really turned out good. Matter of fact, you'll probably see Mac's hand in the video after I edit it, because before I could even get the video done, Mac was already reaching in there grabbing slices that I was cutting. But it turned out really good. But I trimmed that brisket pretty good. But the marbling in the meat is what I really wanted to showcase. And there was not a whole lot of fat cap on it anyway, on the top or the bottom. It was just that loose. It was just that loose fat that you could actually grab with your finger and pull up, that kind of sinew type fat. So I just trimmed all that off. And then that big knuckle of fat between the point and the flat, I trimmed it off and trimmed it back, really until the point was almost unattached from the flat, but I kept them together when I put them on. And that is known as the decal, as John would say. And so then I used some of the salt, the seasoned salt that Gavin from Australia sent me. And it was the Tasmanian pepper salt. That sounds like it's really hot, but it's not hot, like that kind of pepper hot. But it had some really good seasonings in it, and it was a coarse salt. So I seasoned it with that Tasmanian pepper salt from Australia. I also went back over the top of it with the Traeger jerky rub. It's got a really nice beef flavor. And I injected the flat with the Butcher Barbecue Prime injection. And I mixed that Prime injection dust with some beef stock. And it turned out really, really well. And then we put on that Traeger, the Timberline 850. And I ran it for about an hour on 225 with the super smoke on. After that first hour, I cut the super smoke off, and that's when the live stream started. If you want to go back and take a look at that, that's kind of where I pick up on the live stream from yesterday. And then just let it go until, I guess it was probably almost 5 hours. It got up to about 165 internal, and then I took it off and wrapped it in butcher paper, put it back on, and then just let it go until, you know, I've got a thermopop out there, and I was just taking that thermopop and sliding it through the paper into that brisket everywhere, and it was just going in like butter. And So then I removed it, took the point off of the flat, wrapped the flat back up and put it in a cooler and just let it rest for about an hour. And then I cubed that point up, made some burnt ends, put some sauce on it and put it back on the Traeger and let it go for probably about another half hour. And then took them off, and it turned out amazing. I've got some pictures that I'll post. Well, I posted some pictures this morning actually on Instagram. You can see. So turned out really good. I used Traeger pellets, and I used a combination of hickory and cherry. I just bought a whole bag of hickory and a whole bag of cherry, and me and Brandy mixed them ourselves the other day, just half and half, you know, just mixing them up. And that's probably my favorite combination. If I had a 2-bag flavor combination, it would be the hickory and cherry. Really nice smoke ring on it. It was not super thick. It was probably 1/4 inch or so, but really a deep red, and it was pretty. I'm telling you, the bark, that salt from Gavin put a really nice bark on it with that jerky rub. But that salt, because it was that coarse salt, it was perfect on the bark for it. So it turned out really good. I mean, it was, like I say, probably when I first got the brisket, it was 12.5 pounds, somewhere around there. And I trimmed probably 3.5 pounds of just excess fat and stuff off of it. So roughly around 8 pounds, 8 or 9 pounds was cooking weight. But I thought we were going to have a lot left because there wasn't a whole lot of people over here yesterday. And last night, Brandy said, no, because there wasn't but about that much left that I didn't slice. You can see it in the video when I slice it. Well, that's all we have left for today because everything else got eaten off of that brisket. So obviously it was pretty good. Chad, he had not had a whole lot of brisket, and Chad said, I don't know what it's supposed to taste like, but if it's any better than this anywhere else, it'd be hard for him to believe. So he liked it a lot. So it turned out really good. So Stephen Manis, again, thank you. That was beautiful. But I'm going to edit that video later on this morning, and I'll post it sometime around lunch or a little after lunch and let everybody watch that. And, you know, of course, all the brisket experts and, you know, keyboard warriors will probably come out and tell me what they would have done and all that stuff. But I really don't care because it was in my backyard and it was my brisket. So I did it the way I wanted to do it. I did learn something, though, however. And, you know, every cook, if you're paying attention and all that, and you're wanting to learn and you're wanting to make things better, I know it, John. You learn stuff on almost every cook, and I learned something on this cook, and that you ruined a good piece of meat with salt. No, actually, I didn't put any meat or any sauce on the flat at all. Just the cubed burnt ends part. But when I was slicing that flat, man, on that very end, that smoke ring was beautiful all the way around, the whole slices, just all the way around. But then as I got towards this other end, the smoke ring on the top started disappearing. And it was still prominent on the bottom, but it was disappearing on the top. And the more I sliced, the more that smoke ring on the top disappeared. And I got to thinking, man, I wonder, you know, why is that smoke ring disappearing on top? But then I figured it out. And I mean, it was weird and pretty cool to see it. But if you put those slices, when I sliced all of them up, back together, and you took the outline of where the smoke ring disappeared on the top it was the perfect exact outline of where that point was on top. So then once you got past the point that was on top, then that smoke ring picked up all the way around on top as well. And so that was another thing that I learned was, you know, especially if you're, which I wasn't yesterday, this is my backyard, but if you're doing competition brisket, then I would want to take that point completely off and do the flat separately. That way that point is not covering the top of that flat, preventing that smoke ring from going all the way through. And then when you slice that flat, you're going to get that consistent smoke ring from one end of that flat to the other. So that's just something to think about. You know, if you're going to do a whole pack of brisket and you want to kind of show it off a little bit and have that nice presentation, then go ahead and take that flat off, or that point off of the flat. That way, when you get done with it, it's going to have that smoke ring from start to finish all the way through on every single slice. So that's, you know, just something good to keep in mind, something good that I learned. It really didn't matter to me because all of it got eaten anyway. So John says, I've noticed on mine when I cook brisket that the smoke ring is pretty uniform on the meat that was exposed to the smoke on pellet grills. And that's true. It's because I think it's because it's always a constant smoke for the most part. Especially if you've got a, you know, a good pellet grill that holds temps and all that stuff. Dogfather, good to have you. Good to have you. How you doing? I'm a little slow this morning. Getting up this morning was a little more difficult than it has been in most mornings. But you know, that's just something that I noticed yesterday off of that brisket. You know, that where the whole outline of where that point was on top of that flat, it looked like you had just a template on a piece of paper and you spray painted that thing red, and then when you pulled that outline off, you could see that perfect outline of where the point was as far as where the smoke ring was. So just something that I noticed yesterday and wanted to pass on, you know, if y'all have noticed that. But that was pretty cool. And it, you know, it shows you how that smoke ring develops and penetrates the top of that meat, unless you've got something else on top, which is pretty neat. But the flavors were great, and it turned out really well. So hey, as long as you're moving, that means you're alive. Ain't that right? Tom, good morning. How's everything in Ohio? I'm sure it's pretty cold in Ohio. Rod, y'all get rid of the snow? It was a beautiful day here. By the way, Dale, good morning. Beautiful day yesterday. It was probably around 80, 75, 80. What else did we cook? Chad brought over some sausage, and we cooked some sausage and then cubed it up, put it in a little pan with some barbecue sauce and put it back on. And so we had little sausage cubes. I cooked some jalapeno poppers, sliced the jalapenos in half, put cream cheese in there, put a little Traeger coffee rub on that, wrapped it in bacon, put a little more Traeger coffee rub on it, put it on the smoker. I actually cooked those. The jalapeno poppers, extra bacon that I had left over, and the sausage were all cooked on the Grilla Grills Silverbac. And the brisket was cooked on the Traeger Timberline 850. So we had jalapeno poppers, we had sausage, we had bacon, we had brisket, we had some asparagus, and then my wife, she cooked some collard greens and some baked beans. We had potato salad, baked beans. So we had plenty of food. Everything turned out great. Tom says, actually, we're in the 50s this weekend. Windy and rainy, though. Yeah, 50s is pretty warm for you guys right now. Yeah, and Carolina beat Duke yesterday. And I can't believe Tennessee lost yesterday against Auburn for all. Oh, man. But we had a good time yesterday. We played a little cornhole out back, and it was fun. It was a fun time. I tell you what, partying ain't what it used to be. Partying at 47 is not like partying at 27. I can tell you that. Not to start a live stream brawl, but I watched Aaron Franklin discuss the smoke ring, and according to him, it is not actually a smoke ring, but just the way the meat reacts to the heat cooking at a low temperature. And he is exactly right. He is exactly right. It really doesn't have anything to do with the smoke per se. It has to do more, that's right, with it's a chemical reaction with actual wood burning. And that chemical reaction is, and I forget I think it's carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. I don't remember which. I think it's carbon monoxide, though, which sounds kind of dangerous. But that and another chemical that's released when wood burns, and it reacts with the myoglobin, I believe, in the meat. And that myoglobin, I'm fixing to get scientific here, but that myoglobin is what gives meat that red color. And what that chemical reaction does is it seals that red color in the meat as it cooks. And so, thank you, Raj. And I wish y'all were here too, by the way. That would have been a blast. But that chemical reaction locks in that color from the myoglobin until it reaches a certain temperature, and then it doesn't do it anymore, which is why the smoke ring stops at a certain level. So if you keep that temperature really, really low and you spritz, because a smoke ring is going to develop more if it's a moisture meat, plus it's keeping the temperature down so that it develops that larger smoke ring. So the more you can stay at a low temp, the bigger your smoke ring is going to be. Everybody thinks it's because of the smoke of the wood, but it's really not. It's about how long it stayed at a lower temperature so that chemical reaction could take place longer, sealing in the color of that myoglobin in the meat. So he's exactly right. And that was on my list, actually, Raj, now that you've ruined it, of one of my barbecue myths was the smoke ring myth. Actually, it is not a myth. It is a actual ring, but it's not developed because of the reasons people say it is. So you're exactly right. So thank you, Raj. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. But there was a great smoke ring on that meat yesterday. Turned out really good. So what everybody cooked yesterday? Anybody cook anything? Rod, you've been kind of quiet over the past week. You must have been busy this week. I don't know if you would say great minds, John. Way too early for the scientific talk. You're right. That kind of made my head hurt a little bit. But you are right, Raj. the sight of that smoke ring for some reason just makes the meat taste better. Moink balls. So Tom, you cooked them yesterday. How'd they turn out? Those things were really good. It was. They turned out really good. I'm gonna make them again. I think next time I may even put a little cube of cheese in the middle of that moink ball. That way, when you cut into it, there's some melted cheese in the middle. Try that and see how that goes. I've seen those before. Other people do them, and they look really good. So I may do that next time. Did my first sous vide steak last night. Awesome. So how long did you sous vide that for? My brother's got a sous vide that he's never used. I thought about borrowing it and seeing what it was all about, to see if it's the raised that everybody talks about. Tom said it turned out great. I'm going to try a different sauce. Pineapple chunks on them work too. That's interesting. I bet that would be good. 2 hours at 125, then seared in a 600-degree cast iron. So, but you weren't really impressed that much with the sous vide? I don't know. To me, it just seems like it would be more like boiled meat or something. But before you sear it, I guess. It's a little strange. I know it's out of season for a turkey, but I plan to brining a turkey to see how it turns out. Well, I mean, if you're going to practice that kind of thing, there's no better time than doing it now, before it's right before Thanksgiving, and then you're trying to do it and it's not turning out too well. That'll be good. That'll be good. And I've never really brined a whole lot. I kind of want to. I want to start brining some and seeing if there's a noticeable difference. Everybody says it adds moisture to it, and it may. It's just, I don't really have, I know you can do it in a cooler, but I would just rather do it in the fridge, but I don't have a whole lot of room in the refrigerator. So the sous vide was great. The tenderness was spot on. The medium rare was spot on. The thing I missed was the smoke. Gotcha. Very good. I understand that. Brian wakes up that turkey white meat. Gotcha. And that's right, John. You don't know until you try it. You don't know until you try it. Some people like it. Some people don't. Some people like, different seasonings, different sauces, all that stuff. The most important thing is you do what you like. Straight out of the bag, the meat is all gray and unappealing. Dab it dry with paper towels. Hard sear and it comes to life. Interesting. I may have to see if I can get the old sous vide from Harley and try it and see how it goes. Brian 2 years ago and forgot to this past year because I was rushed. So Roger, you think it would be better if you had brined? I cooked the turkey this year on the pit barrel cooker using their turkey hanger, and that turned out really good. Probably one of the better turkeys that I've done. But that turkey hanger worked perfectly on the pit barrel cooker. I think the sous vide is great, though. Just missed the smoke. Yeah, that's awesome. The daily carnivore diet. Raj got a sample pack of Iron Bean coffee from the Skull of the Enemies. I hear you. I have not tried that one. Raj, what flavors did you get? If you try cast iron, I don't know if there's another coffee out there better than that cast iron. That's what I'm drinking right now, and there's probably that much left in the bottom of that bag of cast iron that was, I guess it's a pound bag. Yeah, I'm not a big proponent of the liquid smoke. I'm like you, that just don't seem right. Yeah, that's one thing I found too, Raj, is it's really hard. You can't really go so much about whether it's medium roast or dark roast or any of that as far as like the bitterness or the strength of the coffee as much as I thought you could. Um, I think one of the strongest flavors that we've had so far might be the integrity. But like the cast iron, man, that cast iron is, I mean, it's dark. I don't remember if it's a dark roast or not. It might be a medium roast, but either way, it's like velvet. It's like chocolatey and rich coffee flavors, and it's good. Rage is a close second to cast iron. That rage is awesome. It did not last very long at our house. Now the fierce is supposed to be, I think, the strongest, not the strongest, the most caffeinated, I think, that they have so far, I think, is the fierce. So don't drink the fierce before bedtime. Loki is good. We've got some Loki in there. We drank some Loki last night. Here's the other thing about last night. Let's see, have you tried fried ribs? I actually fried a couple of racks in peanut oil the other day. Damn, they were a lot better than I thought they would be. You know, it's funny you say that. Last night we were talking, Mac mentioned it. There's a town a little ways away, Jessup, Georgia. There's a restaurant there, and they have a buffet style eating area, but it's, country style food, home cooking. But he was saying that one of his coworkers, I think, ate there a while back, and they called it country fried ribs, but it was ribs that were deep fried, and he couldn't quit talking about them. So we were just talking about that yesterday afternoon, and that sounds really good. I bet it is good because you get that hot oil, but it's really cooking and caramelizing that fat and all that on the ribs. I bet it's good. Old Times in Brunswick fries them really well. And Jim, hold on a minute. Jim, did you send me an email yesterday? You did, didn't you? I got it right here. I got it right here, Jim. I hate for you to have for you to do that. Um, We'll swap addresses. I'll email you back. I'll reply to you, and we'll swap addresses if you want to swap addresses. And you send me that stuff, and I'll send you a little Jus Piddlin package. How about that? I'll feel good about that if we do it that way. And Jim wanted to send me some rubs and stuff, and sauces and all that. And man, that's the weird part about this doing YouTube videos. And even though my channel is really, really small, I've got some really good subscribers and everything, and it's weird. I feel weird when somebody wants to send me something, you know. I don't know if I feel bad is the word, but I just feel, I mean, I'm no different than y'all, you know. And I know that y'all are working hard for y'all's money, and you know, I just hate for people to send me stuff without me sending something back or something, you know. So, Jim, if you want to do that, we'll swap addresses, and if you send me some rubs and sauces, I'll send you some Jus Piddlin BBQ little care package or something. So I'll when we get off of here, Jim, I'll reply to your email, and we'll figure that out. I appreciate your email though. That was pretty nice. Obligated to reciprocate. Man, Roger's on the ball this morning. Man, I feel obligated to reciprocate. And I'm drinking out of my Iron Bean Coffee Company mug. Do not go gentle. But it is not an ambidextrous mug. As Roger pointed out about my mugs. I'm going to do another order for those coffee mugs, by the way, but I'm going to do them black with an orange Jus Piddlin BBQ logo on them. See what else we have going on. We're all weirdos. Yeah, no kidding. I'm amazed by it too, John. Good morning, Texas Style Barbecue and Cuisine. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. That skull has kicked in. I'm about to go run a marathon. That's good stuff. Andy Evans, good to have you. I've been lurking for a couple weeks since I found your channel. Really enjoy your videos. Ordered some cast iron on Wednesday, and it arrived yesterday. Awesome. That's good stuff. I like those kind of stories there. And Andy points out something good. And Andy, I want you to tell me, because this intrigues me. You are not the first one that has showed up on one of the live streams, and I you know, like most of the names that show up on here are like regulars on these live streams, you know. And then every now and then one will pop up that I haven't seen before, but they'll comment and say, yeah, I've been watching the live streams for a couple weeks now. And I'm thinking, you know, are there really people that watch the live streams but just sit there and watch them? You know? That's kind of cool. I guess, you know, it occurred to me that just because there aren't more names on the actual stream commenting doesn't mean that there aren't actually more people out there just sitting there watching, you know. So thank you very much, Andy. And, you know, to John's point, I do try to give a little barbecue info just so that people aren't actually just sitting here watching me drink coffee. You know, I feel like I need to add a little barbecue knowledge to the show, you know, which is why we're talking about the brisket at the beginning, and then Raj brought up the old smoke ring. But any questions that anybody has too, you know, let me know. And we've got great folks on here too, like the Dog Father and Texas style barbecue cuisine, and a lot of other guys that are far more knowledgeable than your humble host here. Steve Manis, overslept. Good morning, Stephen. The brisket turned out outstanding. I'll be posting that video this afternoon, brother. It amazing. I appreciate you very much. And that time change too. That time change might have got you, Stephen. Yeah, Dogfather says something about not adding water to mushrooms. Let me go back up here a little bit, scroll back up. Smokey Joe's video with the portobellos. Should you wash mushrooms with water or dry clean them? You know, we talk about those myths a lot, and barbecue myths, and, you know, about fat cap up or down, and about searing, and about smoke ring, and, you know, another great barbecue myth is the beer can chicken. Well, the mushrooms are another one. And not washing mushrooms, because it'll waterlog the mushrooms, and those mushrooms will absorb that water. I've actually seen a study done to where people took mushrooms and they weighed them, and then they took that mushroom and put it in a bowl of water and just left it. And then they took another mushroom and weighed it, and then they just rinsed it underwater and then patted it dry. And then they took another mushroom and weighed it, and then just brushed the dirt off and didn't add any water. And what they found out was it really doesn't matter if you wash mushrooms, if you soak mushrooms, or just, you know, brush the dirt off, that mushroom already has so much moisture in it that it can't really take in hardly any noticeable water. It's just like a sponge that you've already taken that sponge and let it soak up water. Well, then it can't take up any more water. And so what they found was, especially if you're rinsing mushrooms, if you just put dirty mushrooms in a colander and just run it under water and rinse them, that it really didn't take up any water. And even the mushroom that they soaked in water only took up like 2% of its weight in excess water. So it was so minimal that you didn't even notice. Which is why now, if I've got mushrooms and I want to clean them, I just run them underwater, because it's not going to really take up any more water than it would normally have anyway. So and it may affect the color. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I wash them with water. They're not going to soak up with the little amount of water that you're putting on them. If you're washing them, they're not going to soak up enough water to even matter. Science. I need to start wearing like some kind of scientific hat or something. It could be that, Raj. It could be. It could be. Well, see, when you don't have hair, that knowledge kind of soaks into through the scalp. It's more permeable into the scalp, right straight to the brain. Roger's got a lot of hair too. Roger, you should try shaving your head and then see what happens. But if you do, I want a picture. That would be a sight. Chat a photo. What would the photo be, Raj? And people are always amazed. It's funny to me that people think, like if you're bald, people think that you've been bald your whole life. Like you never had hair, you were born bald, and you just stay bald. I was a bald teenager. I was a bald 11-year-old. Because when I say something about hair when I was in high school, you had hair? Well, I haven't been bald my whole life. It's funny. People think bald people are just, they've been bald their whole life. Oh, I had hair. And you know, back in the 80s, short on top, had the mullet in the back, party in the front, or business in the front, party in the back. Yeah, I had the mullet back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. What was the myth about the beer can chicken? I just shot a video on that a few days ago, actually. Now, did you, cuisine, I think it was about taking longer to get there, but I think that goes back to the absorption myth. The beer can chicken. I was thinking about actually doing a video of the Pluff. What in the world? Did that just happen? That, man. I mean, that looks like straight out. I don't even know if that, can y'all see that? That's Raj right there this morning. That just happened. He looks like a man straight out of like some horror movie. Look at that. There's hair everywhere. You can't see it good. This lighting does not do this photo justice, I can tell you that. And it's way too early for that picture. Holy cow. Yeah, and the look on your face, that coffee is kicking in strong. Woke up that way. Darla must be scared to death every morning. She has to be. Poor thing. To the beer can chicken. I don't even do beer can chicken really because of this. But it's really, here's the thing, for the concept of beer can chicken to work, all right, and the concept for most people is that you put, you know, you got a beer, you can cut the top open a little bit if you want to, whatever, put seasonings in it, whatever, pour a little bit of the beer out, put seasonings in there. Anyway, the premise is that you put that beer inside the chicken stands up, and throughout the cooking process, the beer starts to steam out and it imparts moisture into the chicken, maybe a little bit of the beer flavor and the seasonings and all that stuff imparts the flavor into the inside of the chicken and cooks it from the inside out and that kind of thing. That's the premise of beer can chicken. But, you know, just like the theory of the fat cap being cooked up and that fat actually rendering down and absorbing into the meat that some people say happens when it doesn't, because it's chemically and physically and scientifically impossible for that to happen. The beer can chicken's the same way. That beer has to get to a certain temperature for it to start steaming and evaporating and coming out of that can into the chicken. That's number one. That beer never gets to a high enough temperature for it to do anything. If you take a beer can chicken and you measure, or let's say you were to weigh, man, my stomach's growling, talking about all this food. If you take that beer can and you weigh it with the beer in it, and then you cook a beer can chicken, at the end of that cook, if you'll slide that beer can back out and weigh it again, it's going to weigh almost the same. It may even weigh just a tad more, because that beer has not got to a high enough temperature where it's going to evaporate. You got to think about it like this. Let's say you cook a beer can chicken at, 275, 300 degrees. All right. But it's like, I don't have one in here, but if you have a koozie, okay, and you put a cold beer in it, you're doing that so that koozie keeps that beer cold. All right. Well, that chicken, all that chicken is, pardon my language, is a big ass koozie for that beer. And so think of that chicken as a koozie sliding over that beer. But that chicken, I've never had a beer koozie that was that thick. But that chicken all the way around full of meat is that thick. So that chicken just acts as a big koozie for that beer. And there's no way that inside that bird is going to get to a hot enough temperature that it starts evaporating that beer. And so the theory about the beer can chicken is busted big time. Now, with that being said, do I think cooking a chicken vertically is a good thing? Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's one of the best ways that you can actually cook a chicken. A whole chicken, like when I hung that turkey in the pit barrel cooker, or you could hang a whole chicken in the pit barrel cooker, or take a beer can chicken holder, that's got the ring in it where you put the beer can inside of it. But instead of putting the beer can inside of it, don't put anything in the middle. Just stand the chicken up on that stand and cook it. And what that's going to do is that heat actually goes inside the cavity of the bird now, because it's not plugged up. That's the other thing about the beer can chicken, is that can is actually plugging up the chicken. That can is plugging up the inside cavity of the bird, really preventing it from cooking inside out. If you take that plug out, which is the beer can, now you've got an inside cavity that can take in heat from the grill. And if you cook it vertically on that stand, it's going to cook from the outside in and the inside out, and it's going to give you more of an even cook and be a lot juicier. So I think cooking a chicken vertically is great. Just don't plug the inside cavity up with a beer. That's really not going to do anything. So that's my theory on the beer can chicken. The beer can chicken is like a cool, what would you call it? Roger will come up with a word in a minute. But it's just like a novelty type deal, I mean, it looks cool. It sounds cool. The theory, when people first say it, oh yeah. But if you actually think about the science of it and what it takes to evaporate a liquid, and then if you actually feel the beer can when it comes out and you think, man, it's still full, it really doesn't do a whole lot. It's a gimmick. A gimmick. Roger, I'm going to have to start paying you for all these words. Matt, good morning, sir. Glad you could make it. I've cooked a lot of beer can chickens, and I would say it would be extremely hard is not to get one more juicier than a beer can chicken. Could be. Could be. I just don't think the beer does anything. I mean, like if you go to AmazingRibs.com and look up their barbecue myth section, they actually did a test on beer can chicken, and their actual beer, the beer in the beer can never got over 160 degrees. So it just kind of sat there and just kind of stewed. And then you've got the juices from the chicken dripping back into that beer can. And just knowing some of the guys and knowing how some of the guys that even are on YouTube or that post pictures on Instagram and Facebook and all that, some of the grills that are, some of their grills are so nasty anyway because they never clean them. I can imagine some of them just taking that beer can out and then just leaving it sitting on their grill or something. And all that bacteria and nastiness is sitting in that, those raw chicken juices are sitting in that stewy beer inside their grill for a week at a time. That's just not very sanitary, it doesn't seem like. I have to plug in my computer. So that's just my take on the beer can chicken. I don't think the beer can chicken, I don't think the beer actually does anything. I actually heat the beer up on the pit. I got you. And it does steam up and flow steam from the neck. Heating it up might be the trick. Me personally, I would just rather spatchcock a chicken and then cook it on my grill that way, exposing more of the surface area of the chicken to your smoke and getting more flavor that way. But that's just me personally. Like I say, you know, everything everything is different for everybody, you know. Whatever folks like doing. Like I always say, I'm not ever going to tell you that something's wrong. I'll just tell you my opinion of it and the way I would do it. But at the end of the day, if it's your grill and you're in your backyard and it's what you're going to eat, you do it exactly the way that you want to do it. And then if somebody tells you that it's wrong, then you can politely ask them to leave your backyard. Texas style barbecue, I drink half the beer and then pour it in some Italian dressing. I just drank the whole beer and spatchcock the chicken. Yeah, I like doing stuff different ways. Yeah, I'd rather just drink the beer myself. Gavin, good morning, sir. How is everything in the land down under? Gavin, I don't know if you caught it yesterday, but the brisket video that I cooked yesterday, and I'm gonna edit the video today. I used the Tasmanian pepper salt that you sent me as part of the rub on that brisket yesterday, and it turned out amazing, my friend. So thank you very much for sending that pepper salt, because it did work on that brisket yesterday. Very nice. Yeah, I'm not saying it's gospel. I'm just saying it was a good read. And I do think that, you know, it's hard to, I guess I'm just, I like data to back up what I, what I say, or what I, like if there's an argument to be made, it's easy to make an argument unless you have something to back it up with. There's a lot of people, again, there's a lot of self-proclaimed barbecue professional pit masters that are on TV right now. I could probably watch Food Network today, and there's going to be a some kind of pit master show on with guys that are making millions of dollars because they have great restaurants and they do put out great food. But there's going to be one of those pit masters that's going to say today on the Food Network that fat is going to render down and absorb back into the meat. And it doesn't. It's impossible to do. It's chemically impossible to do. Scientifically impossible to do. I just did a whole video on that very topic. So it doesn't matter. As far as that goes, it doesn't matter how many cooks they've done or what they've cooked. Just because people have done 57,000 cooks and they say that fat is going to render back down into the meat doesn't make it so. Because then when you ask them, well, how does that fat mix with that water that's in the meat, then they can't tell you. Why? Because fat doesn't mix with meat. Oil and water don't mix. Tom, have a great week. Thanks for joining us. Steven says, fat on mine normally runs into the grease bucket. Yeah. Like I said on that barbecue myth video that I did about the fat cap, if that was the case, that the fat would render back into the meat, then you wouldn't need a drip pan or a grease bucket. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Drink enough beer and nobody will give a hoot. That's a fact, Jim. And Dogfather, you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, it's all personal preference. And that's the thing. And I agree with that 100%. What I don't like is when people like opinions, I think the best way is this way, or I think the best way is this way. That's cool. But then when you start saying things that just aren't factual, especially when people are just starting out in barbecue and starting to learn, there's a lot of bad information out there, and a lot of just bad information. And then when people are just learning to cook and learning barbecue, for them it's hard to decipher what's right and what's wrong, and what's opinion and what's fact and all that stuff. So And Texas style barbecue, you're right. You know, there's a lot to be said for experience. But at the end of the day, all the experience in the world is still not going to make that fat render back down into the meat. Bushy Botto, good morning. How are you this morning? So this afternoon, I'm going to edit that video and upload it. And then this coming up week, we'll have the Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening live show. Gavin says, how did the 850 work out on the brisket? Man, it did amazing. I started out at 225 on super smoke for an hour. Then I cut the super smoke off and just let it go until it reached 165, and then I cut it up to 250 and wrapped it in butcher paper, put it back on, and then just let it go until it got probe tender. I probably could have let it go probably about another, I wish I had let it go probably about another half hour or so, half hour, 45 minutes, but it was still really good. But the 850 turn, it did real well. Something else I've noticed about that 850 is that because it's insulated really well, that it doesn't use a whole lot of pellets, which is really nice too. Yeah, that could be the case, old Texas. That could be the case. Eating a breakfast burrito before I do some more prep for a brisket and pork butt cook tonight. That sounds good. How you gonna season up the brisket and the pork butt? And what are you cooking it on? Dave C., how does it smoke without raising? Seems to me more pellets to burn and make smoke would raise the temp. How does it smoke without raising the temp? Seems to me more pellets to burn and make smoke would raise the temp. I'm not sure I'm following what the question is, Dave. I think you're asking, how does it produce smoke without using more pellets? Is that kind of what you're asking? Dogfather, that's exactly right, brother. That's exactly right. And that's what I do. I make it for me and my family. You're exactly right. Exactly right. On TV, on YouTube, everywhere. You got to kind of weed through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then decide what's right for you. Or change your people. That's a great point. It's going to have some of the same rub in both, but the mixed in seasonings will be specific for each cut. More pepper on the brisket, more sweet on the pork. That sounds good. That's a good plan. So Gavin says, now I guess what my next question will be. What's Traeger's secret unveiling on March 15th? Suspense is killing me. I'm not 100% sure, Gavin, but I think they're going to launch several grills. I think they're kind of revamping their lineup a little bit and their marketing strategy, I believe. And I think it's going to be better for them. They're going to launch an upgraded version, I believe, of the Timberline and the Ironwood with upgraded controllers. And also, I think they're going to adjust some of the price points of the Pro Series grills to be more beneficial for the consumer. How does Super Smoke? Oh, I got you. How does Super Smoke work while keeping temps low? Well, a lot of it has to do, Dave, with that variable speed fan. If I don't know if y'all could have heard it yesterday on that live stream, but that fan has the ability to cut on and off, on and off. And with the Super Smoke, I'm not sure if that Traeger dumps more pellets in there than it does when it's off. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't been able to find like what the science is behind the Super Smoke feature. But I do know that it does produce, or you at least see more smoke coming out of the grill when you have it on Super Smoke. And you can tell when you cut Super Smoke on or off, as soon as you do that, you can hear the fan adjusting, either speeding up or slowing down or stopping during that feature. So I'm going to have to play with that a little bit more to kind of see if I can figure out, exactly how it's doing it. But that is a good question, Dave. Hot and fast and chicken sausage at the beginning to hold me over. I understand that. My smoker's called R2 BBQ. That's awesome. Good stuff. SoCal. Jason, you around San Diego? I had a couple young cooks criticize my brisket as being burnt when I posted up a 14-hour unwrapped brisket. They did not know what crap because they have never seen an unwrapped brisket. Tom Miles, good morning. I've had that many times. People think it's burnt, then they cut into it and are really, how do you do that and make it so moist? Best barbecue joints are food trucks, but I have to go to several because they each have their strengths. Some of the best food I've eaten at are food trucks. Matter of fact, Roger, what was the one that used to come by Miramar all the time? Old Roach Coach that used to come by Miramar. They had some good food on that thing. Too many young cooks think a brisket is supposed to be mahogany after smoking. Well, I would say that there's probably just as many bad old cooks as there are bad young cooks, and probably close to as many good young cooks as there are good old cooks. I think it's all in what your favorite profiles are and what you're looking for. Dogfather, I've had people tell me that I'm wrong with unwrapped because Franklin Barbecue wraps theirs. And see, that's the thing. Everybody's going to say because Franklin Barbecue does great business and they do it this way, that everybody's got to do it that way. You do it how you want to do it in your backyard. You do it the way you like to do it in your backyard on your grill. That's the only right way to do it. Gavin, nearly 10 p.m. here. Got to get up at 04 for work. Gavin, I appreciate you, man. Coming in all the way from Australia. You're a great mate. I enjoy having you on the channel, man. They have not cooked enough to know squat. They only know what they have seen on TV. Well, I hope that I live long enough to be at your level one day. I'm in the Inland Empire between San Bernardino and Riverside. Norton Air Force Base was closest, if you remember that was. Then March Air Force Base. Gotcha. I did some camping up around Riverside when I was stationed out there at Miramar. Mount San Jacinto and Mount Palomar, me and a couple buddies did some camping up around that area. That's a beautiful area up there. Cheers, Gavin. 2 ladies is all I remember. All I remember is everybody running out to that truck when they pulled up. I actually remember doing me and Rod, you know Bill Moody. Me and my truck tore up while we were out there in San Diego, and I needed a new radiator. And he found a pick and pull place down in there was a place down there right by the border, Chula Vista, I think. There was a pick and pull place, and we went down there to pick us a radiator. And they had a food truck set up inside the junkyard. And I thought, this can't be sanitary having a food truck in the middle of a junkyard. But I'm telling you, that's the best carne asada burrito I've ever had. It was amazing. If any of you come to Austin, I urge you to try Curlin Barbecue and Leroy and Lewis Barbecue, and then Franklin. Try them all for yourselves and then see what you like best. I've heard of that Leroy and Lewis Barbecue, I think. Tried Franklin's, and the brisket was like eating the sole of my shoe. They probably don't have the lines, but just as good, if not better. A lot of great mountains out here. Come by sometime. We will check the new barbecue scene. Yeah, I would like to get back out there pretty soon. I think the last time I was out there was maybe 4 years ago, I think. Took my wife out there and we piddled around, and it's beautiful out there. A little too expensive Franklin usually has the tenderness spot on. The flavor lacks. Pecan Lodge in Dallas is good. Well, Texas style barbecue, hopefully all these young bucks can catch up to you one day. Rod, y'all still got snow on the ground? By the way, I had one of our Marine buddies send me a friend request on Facebook the other day. I may need to take a trip to Texas. Now, what part of Texas is she living at right now? Ironically, some things don't change. Both in LA. You know, you wouldn't think that LA would be a barbecue town, but I think every town has their places that you can find. Dallas. Played around with so many things I see on videos or TV that I have to scrap. Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes we make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Sometimes the simplest things are the best. I agree with you. All right, guys, we've been on almost an hour and a half. So I'm fixing to go cook me some bacon and eggs and drink one more cup of iron bean coffee. And then I'm going to edit that video, that brisket video. Again, Stephen Manis, you are the man. And I'm going to post that. And then I'm going to chill out the rest of the day, watch a little NASCAR racing, and enjoy my Sunday and get ready for the big Monday tomorrow. Stephen, it was the GOAT, brother. It was the GOAT. And I'll probably be ordering another one from them. I was impressed with their packaging. I was impressed with the way it was shipped, the quality of the meat, all that stuff. It was spot on. So props to them. And I'll put a link in that video to their Facebook page. They did a great job with all that stuff. So I hope everybody has a good week. Whatever you cook, I hope it's a success. And again, do what you do in your backyard. If that's what you like, then ain't nothing wrong with it. So until next time, I'll be piddling.